Filtered, episode 377. I'm your host, Blain, and I'm joined by my co-host, Matt Smith.
Good evening.
It is a great evening. We've been without a show for a little over a week because everybody's super busy, but here we are. We found some time, finally.
It's about time.
I have to admit, it's mostly my fault. You know, it's kind of difficult to run a department and find enough time to record shows, especially when you're babysitting a bunch of adults, so-called adults.
Yeah. It's just bad timing though. Like start of the season,
Yeah.
everyone wants to be talking about hockey, and here we are kind of missing it, but it is what it is. Careers come first, unfortunately.
Yeah. The ones that pay me the most, that's what I focus on.
That's right. So if anyone's listening, if you want to hear
Start
from us a
paying.
little bit more often, start throwing some money out.
All right. So in this one, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the news that's been coming out of the Canadiens sphere lately. So injuries, but not just injuries, opportunities. So why don't we just start it off? Uh, is there an injury curse?
I don't know if it's a curse, but it's it's starting to go down that alleyway, to be honest. I don't know if someone's got a voodoo doll or there's a hex or something. I don't know if someone crossed a black cat or whatever the hell happened, right? But it just seems that is the one thing that we talked about multiple times in the preseason is like if the Canadiens can stay healthy, if the Canadiens can stay healthy. And 2 games into the season, um you lose your second line center on a line and a guy that started the season quite well, looked good during the preseason, and we kind of looked at each other and said like, "Hey, Montreal finally has a second line. You don't have to ask Suzuki to do too much." But now we're 2 games into the year. Well, now 3 games into the year. One obviously without Doc, and we're already asking Suzuki to ask for too much. So it's he's already averaging just over or just under 21 minutes a game, and I'd like to see that number get down sooner than later. So with Dvorak coming back, he skated today in a regular jersey, but they're still saying he's going to be out for another little while. It's a positive, but I'm hoping that's not just him and the staff saying like, "Hey, how you feeling?" because you need to go in, as opposed to him being 100%.
Yeah. And with Doc, what hurts the most is he looked poised for a true breakout.
He did.
Like he was playing like a first line center. He had full control of the game, controlled possession. He was dictating the pace. He looked amazing. Even though the Canadiens lost that first game, his line dominated possession stats, and they were
Yep.
playing against the top six in Toronto.
Right.
So seeing him get hurt like that in the second game really sucks because it looked like he was just about ready to really break through. Uh, but the good news is that he's only 22 years old. He'll be 23 by the time next season rolls around. So
Right.
he's still extremely young and he's still got that opportunity to have that breakout.
Right.
So while it sucks hard, it could be worse.
It's true, but again, like he was injured last year, played 58
Yeah.
games last year, he was injured. Now this year, he only get 2 games in, miss the rest of the year, and then it's work and get that mobility back and get back into game shape. And you lose another year.
Yeah.
So it is
And,
a little
and
it
he's
is a little bit
and
concerning. It
and
is
he
a
missed
little
a year when he was
concerning.
with Chicago.
Yeah.
So now that's two full seasons lost
Yeah.
and half of another one.
Right.
And he's only been in the league for four. This was his fourth year.
Right. But
He's only
he's
had one full year.
like you look at the hit, and we've seen this hit multiple times, and I don't think there was any
Yeah.
malicious intent there from
No.
Tenorti or anything. It was a hockey hit. It was, I didn't think it was going to be as bad as what it was. When they started saying, torn ACL, torn MCL, I'm like, what? Really? And now all of a sudden we lose this guy for the season. Again, don't think there was malicious intent there. It was a hockey play. We've seen it many times. It's just to miss a full season, and then he had that remember he had that freak injury at the World
Yeah.
Juniors, where his wrists looked like Deadpool's hands, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like I want to I want to look at this guy and say that he can be a solid two-way center for the Canadians that can play a little bit of a heavier game when needed. But at the same time, it's like, how is he going to play coming back next year? And we don't know. So I'm a
No,
little bit nervous going forward with him, but I still think that he's a big part of this team moving forward.
I agree. I really do think that he could truly be a centerpiece for what the Canadians are doing. If they can fix this damn curse. Like, did somebody drink Jobu's rum? Like,
It's
what the hell's going on?
it's hard to say, man. It's they said it's the thing that we were kind of the most worried about. It's already started.
Yeah, because you lose Doc for an entire season, then Gooley, but is he's day to day, but is he going to be week to week? Nobody like the official is day to day,
Yeah,
but Kovacevic let it drop. Hope he comes back in a couple of weeks. So that's another guy down.
yeah.
You got two guys down. Dvorak's still not back yet because he won't be back until November, like you said. So what does this do? It kind of opens things up, and it's like St. Louis said, the next man up has to step up.
Well, we've already seen that New Hook is shifted. They're going to rely more on Sean Monahan, which they did last year as well, and he played very well up until he was injured, and he was playing with an injury for the majority of that time.
Hopefully, he
Um,
doesn't do it again.
yeah, yeah, but it's going to be, as you said, the next man up. It's going to be juggling the lines a little bit, trying to find some cohesion early in the season, and try to maximize your try to maximize what you can get out of your team. Um, for me, I'm just going to throw Michael Pesetta's name out there. The Minnesota game was a fucking train wreck, to say the
Oh my
least.
God, it was terrible.
But, and I'm not going to get into it heavy, but you look at a guy at Pizzetta that finally got into the lineup because of these injuries, even though he played 546, like he was finishing his checks. He was challenged twice to fights. He fought so and he obliged both times. He had 6 hits, and he was out there doing what he needed to do. I don't think he needs to fight twice a game, but a fourth line player that's engaging the body, that's getting under the skin of the other team. That's what you want to see in your fourth line. Um, but it's going to be hard to say what these lines are going to start looking like. I like to see some of these guys, kind of grab the bull by the horns and take that next step in
Yeah.
their development. I think it's an excellent opportunity for a guy like Harvey Pinard or Ylonen or even Jake Evans to take that next step. We haven't seen any call ups yet, but so far it's been the newcomer and New Hook that has scored 3 goals, and he's leading the team in goals. Tanner Pearson's got a couple, which kind of came out of nowhere, but 2 rocket shots that he's put in so far. Um, but we'll see. I like to see a little bit more out of Gallagher, but
Yeah.
I find that progression's coming though. Like I find that he's starting to do those things. But when I look at holes in the lineup based off of an injury,
Hmm.
you've got a guy in Doc who is probably, you could probably pencil in for probably 50 points. And
Yeah.
in the things that he does, it opens up a power play position, it opens up second line center position, etc. But it's going to be, who's going to be the one that's going to pin that position down, or who's going to be that individual you can put in on this power play position that's going to be able to pin that down, because the power play is still awful.
Well, before we get to the power play, we'll stick with the openings here. With Newhook moving over, he's the one that essentially takes over Doc's position.
Yeah,
So that opens up spots on the wing.
right.
Now, you mentioned Harvey Pinard, and I see I see Gallagher in his youth in this guy.
I do
He,
too.
he's a he's just a little spark plug. He keeps going and going and going and going. And now he's on the top line and he is playing well on the top line. It's not ideal for him to be there, but he's taking advantage of that opportunity, which opens up another wing position. I know Pizzetta's in it, but I would have assumed had he not been hurt in Laval, Emil Heineman might have gotten the call up,
Yeah. That's
but he got
another
hurt.
that's another injury. Yeah.
And Reinbacher in Europe, he got hurt. He's out a couple of weeks. Like it's just
Right.
it's snowballing, and everybody's freaking hurt. And I swear to God, I didn't drink, but somebody did.
Yeah.
But no, you're right though. There's openings in the power play now. You look at the power play setup that they have now, and it doesn't really strike fear in the hearts of anyone. Like
Yeah.
I don't understand why they went with the lineup they have. Slavkovsky is on the power play, but he's on the second wave. Anderson, who hasn't done much, especially on the power play. Don't I love Anderson's game, but on the power play, he doesn't bring a lot to it. Where Slavkovsky could, or at the very least, they should give him that chance.
Right.
So I don't know what their setup is going to be because the current setup on that power play is not good.
No, it's struggling. It really is. And another thing that we talked about is something that they had to improve in, and it's not. It is not it is not improved. Their 5-on-5 play. If they can keep the game 5-on-5, they're gonna have close games. They're gonna have good games. But their power play and their penalty kill just awful.
Yeah, and that's where they're losing. It's not like the penalty kill's not doing its job. It's over 80%, so they're doing okay there. It's the power play because they're giving up more goals than they're scoring on the power play.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which, holy shit! I mean, how bad is your power play when you get outscored while on power play?
Yeah.
And I think the biggest issue here, beyond a really poor power play, is they're overtaxing their penalty killers as well because they lead the league in minor penalties.
Yeah. Like
Essentially,
this big brutish Montreal Canadiens roster.
yeah,
Yeah.
essentially they're shorthanded for a full period every game. That's the average they've got.
Yeah.
Like in 3 games, they've essentially been shorthanded for a full game.
Oh, it's insane. It's insane. Like it is. You look at this team and it's like, why? Like, why do you keep
Yeah,
doing this? And some of them, like some of the games that we've seen so far, some of the calls have just been like, are you really? Are you
yeah.
really going to call that? Some are kind of no brainers, but we've seen the Domi one where he kind of got touched and he fell down, or
Sploosh.
the phantom high stick the other night, or anything like that.
And those are going to happen, but the fact that they're happening at the same time as all the other calls, and they're cracking down on certain plays,
Yeah.
and the Canadians are getting called for that, like it's like the hooking
There's
calls, like
well, like
stuff you're
there's
not going to see in later in
yeah,
the
but
season.
there's taking penalties, and then there's
Yeah,
being able to kill that penalty. And they
that's right.
and their special team is awful. Like take that book and burn it, and then take that bin you burned it in and throw it in something and light that on fire, and like it's abysmal. It's horrendous.
And the fact that they're well, the penalty kill, despite being completely overworked, has done okay. Like we can't really fault them. They're over 80%. That's good. Um, but being shorthanded so often, and not just getting called for questionable calls or borderline calls, like they deserve a lot of these calls, and they're taking these penalties in the worst possible places, like in offensive zone penalties, a ton of them. Like to the fact at point that Marty St. Louis, you can hear him rolling his eyes over the crowd.
Yeah.
It's that bad. So the lack of discipline is a true issue. If they want to stay, like you said, 5-on-5, they're winning the possession battles. They have to stay 5-on-5 to be competitive. They're
Yeah.
not doing it.
Something's got to change.
Well,
We're 3 games
and
into the like it's kind of embarrassing. We're 3 games into the year, and we're already talking about a second line center being out, a top four defenseman being out, the power play being shit, taking too many penalties, penalty kill being shit. Like we're 3 games into the year.
yeah, and I understand it's a rebuild, but the expectations for this season were higher than for last. I mean, last
Yeah,
season
yeah,
there wasn't a lot of pressure or any. This year you want to see progression. You want to see them improving. Now, 5-on-5, there's improvement there,
yes.
but everywhere else, no improvement.
No,
I mean,
it might even got
it's
worse.
the power play is about as bad as it always was.
Yeah,
Like it's marginally better, like by 0.1%. And the penalty kill has improved by about 10%. But you're putting yourself behind the eight ball by taking so many penalties,
yeah,
and it's just hurting your penalty kill. But with all of this going on, with all the injuries, it does open opportunities for the youth.
it does. And with a bunch of games coming up, I'm wondering if they're gonna use a call up or they're gonna do something in that regard. But it's hard to say. I would like to see some cohesion in the lines. I would like to see a little bit of chemistry. And it's
True.
3 games in, we're already line blending, and it's
It's
there's
kind
there's
of being
there's
forced.
it is. It
Yeah.
is.
Now, I do see some chemistry. Clearly, Suzuki Caulfield. The next line with Newhook and Slavkovsky, those two have shown very good chemistry together so far.
So far so good, yeah.
So that could be the other pair in the top six. I don't know who else who would fit better there. Um, Anderson, Monahan. Personally, I think Monahan would be a good fit there to, you know,
When
mentorship.
maybe when Dvorak gets back.
That's right.
Yeah.
But the biggest opportunity, the biggest opening right now that I see is for Barron. Barron had a kind of camp, and he's been
Oh, it was
a
worse
healthy
than it was
scratch.
it was worse than for me.
Yeah.
It was
So
terrible.
yeah, he did not have a good one. Let's put it
No.
that way.
And we even talked about that too. That he's a slow
Yeah.
starter and that he needs to
Yeah.
come out and be because he's waiver exempt, he could be a guy that could just be thrown down. And instead,
True.
he's just been practicing.
They've got him. Yeah, they've got him on the NHL roster, and this injury to Gooley is an opening for him. There's a lot of people that have been talking about Norlinder, but Norlinder being a left-handed defenseman, yeah, it makes sense because Gooley's left-handed. But you have to keep in mind Harris is playing on the right side as it is right now. With Gooley out, that opens the door for them to move Harris back to the left side, leaving a gap on the right.
Right.
Which, if if Barron can step in and play like he did last season, he seems to be someone that you need to give him um, trust in advance. Kind of say, here's an opportunity, don't let me down. And then that kind of builds his confidence. Whereas him
Right.
fighting for that spot, I don't know why, but
Yeah,
it's not
fighting for
quite
the
the same
spot,
player.
he's a completely different player. Yeah, but it
Yeah.
seems that when it's like, hey, okay, you're the guy, go play.
Boom. He's the guy.
Yeah.
So this opening here now with Gooley out for probably a couple weeks, this gives him a chance to play 2 or 3 games. And I think you're right with the call ups. They would have made a call up already, except for the fact that the Canadiens only play 4 games in the first 2 weeks, and
Right.
they're at home.
Yeah.
So there's no impetus for them to
Yeah,
make a
they
call
they
up.
get the busy week starts next week. I think they play 4 games in 5 nights or 4 games in 6 nights or something like that. Yeah.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
that's when I think the call ups are going to happen.
Yeah.
They're trying
Because
to
right
they're
now
trying to
we got our
yeah,
game on Saturday against the Caps, Monday against the Sabres, Tuesday against the Devils, Thursday against the Blue Jackets, Saturday against the Jets.
it's a busy week.
Yeah.
And because of that, and some of those games are going to be on the road, so they're going to be coming
Just
and
the
going
just,
a lot.
just the one. Just the Sabres. Oh, say
Oh, that's the
yeah,
only one.
just the Sabres, yeah.
Still, they got to travel, come back the next day. They got to, there's there's a lot of hockey in that week, and I can see it a call up at that point. But also, one other opportunity might open up because of that compressed schedule for next week, and that's Primo might actually get a start,
He
which
very
I
well
think
could,
he
yeah.
really should.
If they've got him up with the if they got him up with the NHL squad, they may as well play him. Like
Yeah,
we're seeing um subpar goaltending right now in Laval. They could definitely use him down there, but again, they're scared that they're
yeah,
going to lose him on waivers. I think that he'd be I would rather see him play than sit. I still think that there's something in there in the organization for him. I still think that there's a massive hole at goaltending. This isn't a knock on Allen and Montembeault, but I'm looking at the guy that was before them and Carey Price. And when you look at the Canadiens, you're thinking you automatically think of Carey Price and a team that always, I'm not gonna say always relied on their goaltending, but they always relied on their goaltending, right?
yeah.
And now they can't do that as much, and they're not as free with the puck, and they're not as I don't know, they're just not as it's the word I'm looking for. They're not as confident,
Loose.
I guess,
Yeah.
right? Or
And
loose, yeah, loose, confident,
yeah,
whatever, yeah,
confident. It's all the same.
yeah,
You're right. They're not. And you're looking at the goaltending, and I'm not saying that I'm not saying they're bad. But when you're looking ahead in this rebuild, do you see one of them being a legitimate starter? And right now, nobody
no,
really has taken that. Like I know there's talk of Montembeault possibly getting to that part, but he hasn't
haven't
done it yet. He
haven't
hasn't
seen it yet.
shown it.
Haven't seen it. He right now, if you bring in another guy, he could be like a 1B, but he's not a
Yeah.
starter,
No.
right? And you put him against most of the goalies in the league that are starters right now, and he'd be a backup to that person,
Yeah, absolutely.
right? Like right now,
And
they're the best options that the Canadians have right now. But if Montreal can kind of step back and stop taking so many penalties and get healthy and do all the things they need to do right, if it's the goaltending that's costing them games, it might have to be something they start looking into. I'm not going to say start, waving the flags and say, the season's over and the sirens are going off. We need to make a trade or anything, but it might be something they might have to look at in the future. Look at a team that's
and
got
that's
two goaltenders, or
yeah.
even look at free agency and pay the bucks, because right now their best option is Fowler, in my opinion, and he's going to be a few years away at least.
Oh yeah, easily. And that's why it's important to get Primo some time. Like he can't just sit on a bench and not play. You don't
Yeah.
develop that way. I
And
don't.
I'm a little bit scared that they put him into a game and he hasn't been in game action since preseason,
He's been overwhelmed. Yeah.
right? And he gets overwhelmed, and then all of a sudden there goes his confidence again, and yeah, and then not the team turns on, but the fans turn on him and go
Yeah.
from there, right? So
Which takes us down to the Rocket. And you talked about Dobesh, friend of the show,
yeah,
Jakob. He's having a difficult start to the season.
yeah,
So he gave up 5 goals in his opening game, and then he kind of gave up the net to Strauss Mann.
yeah.
Now, Mann played a little bit better, but the Rockets still haven't won a game yet.
No,
The only
just the
highlight
one
there,
point. Yeah,
yeah, and just the 1 point, and they had to come back from a 4-1 deficit to
they
get
did.
to
Yeah,
overtime. And in that same game against Rochester, Strauss Mann scored a goal,
yeah. Started the comeback.
started the comeback.
Yeah,
His was the first goal of the game
yeah.
for for them. So you're looking at Laval, and there's a lot of expectations placed on them. People
I
before the
was,
season started,
oh, yeah, I was expecting so
yeah,
much more out of them.
way more. I know it's early; they're only a few games in, but they haven't looked very good at all.
No, they haven't. And it's the same. It's the same kind of things that we're seeing with Canadians, and it's issues on defense or issues with the penalty kill, or issues with power play or anything like that, right?
It's systemic, yeah. Now, because they're having such a difficult time, and then you have someone like Emil Heineman getting hurt by running into a freaking referee. Um, you'd think that Philip Machar would get more time, but he's not getting a lot of time. He's dressing for the game on Friday night, As we record, it's Friday night, the 20th of October, and he's dressed for that game, but he's on the fourth line. He's not being given, you know, quality time. So I think it would be best if he went back to the OHL.
It might be a good plan, to be honest. Kitchener is a much better team than what they were last year. That's where he still his rights belong to. And
Yeah.
as we record, I believe they've got the highest offensive output in the league right now. So
I'll look that up.
you put him with the right players, then that's a boost right there to your lineup. And it should be a boost to his confidence as well. Like, I don't know if it's going to kick him down at the same time as going from pro hockey to back to junior, but being around a winning culture in Kitchener with players that can put the puck in the net, maybe if he can contribute to that success, it might lead to better things for him.
Yeah, I think so, and I don't think it would be a slap to him or hurt his confidence at all because he did talk about it and he did say that, he just essentially he was saying he needs to play, and he's
Yes.
right.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter if he's playing
And
in
playing
the
game in,
OHL
game out,
or
but
pro.
yeah, but like yeah, and as you said, missing games just to sit in the press box or play fourth line minute for a young guy that's still junior eligible, it should be a no-brainer. Let
Yeah,
let some let some AHL journeyman take that position. Not a guy that you want to look at for the future.
and you got him on the fourth line. You got him playing, mop up minutes. He's not doing very much of anything. He's not getting power play, like you said. And then you look at the Kitchener Rangers, who are leading the OHL in goals scored, and they're 6-2. They're a strong team. They're looking much better than they did last year. And you think he'd be a great fit playing there. He'd be a top six player for sure
Easily.
with them.
Easily. Yeah.
So why not just send him back? He'll be on the power play. He'll play top six. He'll be exposed to the best players in his age group. So why not? And it opens him up to play the World Juniors again.
Yes.
So honestly, development wise, I think he'd be better off.
It'd be interesting to see over the next few days what happens.
Yeah.
So
Because
it's
if
like
they're, yeah,
if he doesn't step up soon in Laval, he's got an assist so far tonight after the first
yeah,
period. But if he doesn't step up, I said you don't want to utilize that guy in that position.
true. And I don't think it has anything to do with him per se. I think even if he scored, a goal and an assist in this game, they're still not giving him the prime opportunities that he needs to develop his game. You want this guy to develop his offensive game. He's not going to get to do that playing on a fourth line with fourth line AHLers, like you
It's
said.
very true. Very true.
So if they're preaching development, you got to put guys into the roles that you want them to become. And if he's not doing it at Laval and he's still able to play in the juniors, send him back.
Right.
All right. So that's pretty much it for this episode. Any final thoughts?
Um, this is obviously a Canadian space show. However, I'm going to throw this out here. A friend of the show, Mike Comito, has his new book out. It's about the Maple Leafs. I know.
Finally,
But it's
we
called
love
Leafs.
we love
It's called
Mike. We love
yeah.
Mike, but
We
not the
love Mike.
Leafs.
He is actually his next book's going to be about the Canadiens, so everyone's going to go out and buy that.
Yeah,
We'll promote the shit out of that. But still, he's on his he's on his third book now. It's called Leafs 365. It's a bunch of stories to do with the Canadian or to do with the Canadiens. Some of them probably have to do with the Canadiens, but it's 365 Leafs related stories. Um, they're great books. They make a great gift. You can buy them at Chapters, etc. If you're in Sudbury, go check him out. He's doing a book signing. I know that very soon. Again, he's a great guy. He's got a great head on his shoulders. He loves the game of hockey, and look him up on Twitter, and you'll see he puts out on this day for throughout the league every day, and he's a must follow. And again, he's a great guy. So if you're a Leafs fan, or or that you're listening to the show, thank you. And if you're a if you're just a hockey fan that's listening to this show, and you know someone that would like a gift like that, again, it's called Leafs 365, and you won't be disappointed.
Yeah, and I'm sure that the sales of that book are going to pale in comparison to the Habs 365. I think the Habs book is probably going to sell 3 books to each one
More than
Leaf
likely.
book,
More than likely.
3 to 1,
Yeah.
3 to 1.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, definitely give Mike a follow. And for me, it's sticking with Sudbury. Dalibor Dvorsky has just signed with the Sudbury Wolves, and as we speak tonight, he is making his debut with the Wolves in Sudbury. So go Wolves, go! Really, the town I grew up in is finally starting to show big things now that I'm gone.
Do they still have that wolf that goes when they score the goal
Yes, Howler
on
still goes up and down.
on
Yeah,
the zip line?
yeah.
Nice.
The best goal celebration in hockey, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah.
So I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I want to apologize. I know that we've gone from 2 shows a week to one every week, and it's probably going to stay in that realm, especially with me beginning my workups on board ship, Treg doing his competitions, and dealing with some family issues. And Matt, you're always busy with the Air Force for some reason.
I am. And I'll be deploying soon too. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, but you're going someplace cool.
for once.
Yeah, I'm just hanging out in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah.
All right. So I just want to thank everybody for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sticking with us. Uh, keep the emails coming. Keep interacting with our social media accounts. We really, really do love hearing from you guys. If you have ideas you want to hear on the show, by all means, send some stuff our way. And heck, maybe maybe we'll bring you on sometime if you ask the right stuff. So again, thank you very much for listening. And remember, if you're talking about it,